Let's play a little game.
Fixate the circles at the center of the display and pay attention to the yellow dot. Don't move your eyes. If you are watching this video from your smartphone, try to get closer. Let's begin. What do you see? The yellow dot in the upper left corner might repeatedly fluctuate into and out of your conscious awareness for several seconds. This occurs even when you are fully knowledgeable about the surprisingly salient object. The greater the contrast between the target object and the background, the greater the effect, and the more you attend to this target object while fixating the central circle, the greater the effect.
You can pause the video to ponder over the possible mechanisms and comment below. Then we will do 3 experiments. By the way, never underestimate yourself. Maybe you are the next Nobel Prize winner. Some believe this is similar to simultaneous nausea, which is a rare neurological disorder. People with simultaneous nausea can't perceive more than one single object simultaneously. There are so many objects in the display, so even normal people might not be able to see the yellow dot. Another explanation involves binocular rivalry, which refers to the alternating perceptual states that occur when the images received by the 2 eyes are too different to be fused into a single percept. This explanation is supported by TMS experiments.
TMS stands for transcranial magnetic stimulation, which can generate electromagnetic pulses to change the brain activity. It's often used to treat Alzheimer's, schizophrenia, PTSD, multiple sclerosis, etc. TMS can enhance or disrupt this effect depending on the hemisphere to which it is applied.
These explanations partially answered how this effect works, but they didn't explain why. We need to dive deeper. In the paper Perceptual Scotomas, a functional account of emotion-induced blindness, New and Shaw proposed a genius idea. How is it possible that a dot doesn't change with the rest of the visual field? This is rare in the real world, but that's exactly what would arise from a scotoma, a piece of detached retina. When it happens, the visual system will remove the stimulus on the damaged location to make sure people can still see clearly. So when a small object is invariant with respect to global changes in the visual field, the visual system may regard that stimulus as a scotoma, and may thus expunge it from your consciousness. That's why this happens. It's a self-correction mechanism. Perhaps that's also why you don't feel the smudges on your glasses. Is this theory valid? Let's do some experiments. If it's right, then this effect would be greater when the target and the fixation point move in concert than when they move relative to each other, because real scotomas always move with the fixation point. Let's test it.
Try to fixate the concentric circles in the display. You can still sense this effect. Let's try another display where the target moves relative to your retina. Now it's hard to see this effect.
The first experiment is successful. Let's venture further. When people have mild scotomas, they don't even know that, because the visual system will fill in that region based on the surrounding texture instead of leaving a hole in the visual space. If the theory is right, the same logic should apply to this effect. The hole in the display should be filled in. Let's try it.
you should see the black hole is filled in by the surrounding grid.
Let's go even further. If the theory is correct, this effect can happen in many kinds of visual changes, not just motions. Other visual changes should also produce the same effect. Let's do the final experiment.
Look at the center of the display. Again, the experiment supports the theory.
So it is indeed a good theory. In fact, our eyes are wired backwards.
This is a human eye. Light enters through the pupil, then reaches the retina in the back. If we zoom in, you can see a patch of the retina. These are blood vessels. The light first reaches the surface, then it penetrates many layers of tissues, eventually reach the photoreceptors which can sense the light. Then the photoreceptors transmit the signal through these nerve cells all the way to the nerve fiber layer, which converges on the optic disc and goes to the brain. That's also why we have a blind spot here. You can find your blind spots by watching the cross with your right eye closed, then adjust your distance to the picture. At some distance, you can't see the black dot, or you can watch this cross with your left eye closed. And that's because the black dot is projected right on the optic disc where no photoreceptors exist.
So the eye is wired backwards. We should see a lot of blood vessels and nerves all the time, but we don't see that, because the self-correction mechanism eliminates all those shadows from your consciousness. This flawed structure of our eyes causes many problems. It should disappoint creationists who believe we're designed by some higher being and we're perfect. But this flawed structure, among many other things, indicates that we're far from perfect. So maybe we're not created by gods, or perhaps gods are not good engineers after all, or maybe I have yet to understand the God's plan. This flawed structure is the result of gene mutations 500 million years ago in the Cambrian. I believe the miracles on human are never God's work. It's all because the endless circle of life goes on and on. As mountains sink into the ocean, and the stars fall, and here we are.